Jesus are saying? What did they say? Things I can't understand. It's too close for comfort. This heat has got right out of hand. It's a cruel, cruel summer. Leaving me here on my own. It's a cruel summer. Now you're gone.
Good morning and welcome to the Red Ned Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I'm your host, Jay Edgar, and I'm joined on the other side of the screen, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Elaine. Elaine, how was your week? I know that you have some sad stuff that we talked about off mic, but I don't know if you're ready to share it with the wonderful people out on this, but you have my condolences, at least.
I'm not going to say the details other than I'm
Oh,
just
I know.
really going to miss eating cheese. That's all.
Well, I did have to go out and give a little bit of money to the state of Wisconsin today, so I think we both came into this onto a little bit of...
F's in the chat for Ed's wallet.
Yeah. The truck registration came up and wheel tax went up in the city I live in too, so that's also a fun one to sit back off of this. So, well, we can sit and lament about this all day, but there's a bunch of stuff we have to get to today too, and especially with the lightning round, we have got to stay on topic today. It's going to be a tight one today, just because they scattered shit all over the place here. But well, it is what it is. So, I mean, have you seen what we're going through yet today? I mean, have you looked at this into detail on some of the crap that we have to go through?
Yeah, I told you that earlier.
It's, they didn't hear that.
Guys, it's like he doesn't believe that I'm on this podcast with him.
The jobs report came back out on Friday, and, well, I read what IBD and Market Watch were saying it was going to be 10 minutes before the jobs report posted, and, well, they missed the mark by quite a lot. So we'll talk a bit about what happened with that. Liz Cheney remains in battle for House leadership, and it's starting to get intense, including the fact that she might have somebody that's standing up against her at this point. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that. And George W. Bush got himself back up in the news again, because why wouldn't we hear from George W. fucking Bush at this point? You brought this one up to my attention, but Brandon Mitchell showed up in the news because he was one of the jurors from the Chauvin trial, and we might actually have to go through all this bullshit again. Are you ready for that?
No.
Well, we will see
No
what
one
happens.
is.
We'll see what happens with that. But I don't know if you saw this, but BLM actually put out a great big list of demands this week as well, and we'll go a little bit over what happened with those and what those are going to mean. So we'll see what happens there. Looks like I almost got autoplay up off the music stream here, so let's go get that fixed, because we don't want to listen to a Peloton advertisement. Facebook came together and decided what Trump's fate was going to be, or maybe not what his fate is going to be yet, so we'll talk about that. And I've actually got his new platform up on the screen, but with $1.5 billion in assets, he somehow put a transparent background on his website. So we'll take a look at that, see what's happening there. The eviction ban came up this week, so we'll talk a bit about what's going to happen with the markets. Bill and Melinda are in the news this week, so we'll talk a little bit about what's happening there and a little bit of foreign news to end out the show, because we don't know which foreign theater we're going to wind up in during the Biden Hong Kong presidency, but it's going to be one of them we're going to talk about. Plus, I've got a really, really stupid article for you at the end of the show this week, because, well, this wouldn't be the Red Net Show if I don't surprise you with something stupid that happened around the world. It's going to be all of this and more. And we are streaming live right now to YouTube, DLive, Facebook, on both of our fan pages. Also, Trovo as well, so you can go and check us out on any of those platforms and come in, hang out with us. If you are interested in DLive at all, the link is in the description below, and I will be hitting the chest today. Remind me, towards the end of the show, we have to hit the chest at some point, because we have 155 lemons in there, so everybody's going to go back and scramble for those and hopefully give them back. I really hope that they give some of them back, so
I literally do not know what that means.
It's a auto-generated cryptocurrency through DLive. Actually, when people chat in the live chat, that's what mine's for it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we'll scatter those out towards the end of the show. Otherwise, if you can't catch us live, you can catch us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Catch us on both of those platforms, also linked in the description, or you can go catch us on demand over on the audio platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. And if you're over on iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. That helps us move up the charts. It helps us overcome Apple's algorithms, and it helps to tell people what it is that they should be listening to. Also, there will not be an interview this week. I know that I tried to get one of those planned up, but that didn't happen, so we will be going without that, but I still will be in contact to see if we can get something. Plus, we might also see a mutual friend Trent Ortner in here as well, because I do want to ask him some questions about the Redacted Caucus. So look for that coming up in the weeks to come. Did you see this pipeline story that popped up this week?
That was one of the ones that I didn't see, actually.
That just popped up over the weekend. Like, I didn't know about it until this morning either, because not a lot of people made a lot of mention about it. I wouldn't have even thought about it unless I actually specifically went looking for this here. But there was a cyber attack on a major U.S. pipeline. It runs from Georgia and it goes all the way up the eastern seaboard. So it supplies almost the entire eastern seaboard with fuel. All kinds of fuel too. Gas, diesel, home heating fuel, jet fuel, all of it. Looks like there was a ransomware attack. It doesn't look like we know what it was that was being demanded from this, but I know that they are trying to pin this on a certain hacking firm who apparently will not hit orphanages, old folks' homes, or hospitals. They just go after big government stuff.
Interesting. We'll see what happens.
Well, it does look like they are looking to see what the federal government is going to do from this as well. They're reaching out to them, and it wasn't Psaki. It was a different press secretary was talking with the press room. Let's see what she had to say about that. If I can get this up and running here. There it goes.
So first, we recognize that victims of cyber attacks often face a very difficult situation, and they have to just balance often the cost-benefit when they have no choice with regard to paying a ransom. Colonial is a private company and will defer information regarding their decision on paying a ransom to them.
Would the administration offer any advice on whether or not to pay a ransom?
So typically that is a private sector decision, and the administration has not offered further advice at this time. Given the rise in ransomware, that is one area we're definitely looking at now to say what should be the government's approach to ransomware actors and to ransoms overall. Liz?
So it does look like they're looking into whether or not the government should be getting involved, or at least be advising this private company as to whether or not they should be paying the ransom for, well, I guess I don't exactly know what it is that they demanded, but
I don't know what they demanded either, and the article didn't disclose that. If it was money or if it was, a set of conditions like lower the gas prices or else, I don't know.
yeah, the article was super sketch about it. Oh, go away,
This
Fox
is a
News.
Fox News alert.
Yeah, the article was super sketch about that. They've been very, very, very opaque about what actually happened with this. Because I read really deep into the article this morning on Contemporary, and I have no idea.
Yeah, and typically with this kind of stuff, I mean, I can't hazard a guess of what the government's advice would be other than don't negotiate with terrorists, which has kind of been our MO for a long time. Mm-hmm. But then we kind of negotiate with them anyway, so so who knows?
Government's going to government, so we'll see what happens with that. Did you see that Stormy Daniels somehow got into the news again this week?
Yes.
So the FEC decided that they didn't have enough evidence to push any sort of prosecution through for this, and they've completely dropped the hush money investigation for Stormy Daniels at this week. And Michael Cohen is pissed.
Of course he is.
Looks like there was a 2-2 vote to find a reason. They failed to find a reason to believe that Donald J. Trump knowingly and willfully violated federal election law. And I believe them. At this point, I look at this and I say, you know what? Yeah, he's a scumbag, but he doesn't have to do it through campaign finance. If he really needs to come up with that kind of money, he'll go sell that Porsche that he bought on Top Gear a few years ago. There's no reason for him to go through campaign finance to do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But this kind of does fall along a lot of the lines of the narrative that we heard for 4 years. Is just falling apart at this point. It's going away, which I kind of knew it was going to. Just as long as they don't have to smear him in the news anymore, they have nothing on him. So,
Right. And they would rather keep him relevant than talk about Biden.
Biden? Who's Biden? We don't talk about that person here. He's the most popular president in the world, and everybody loves him. He got more votes than Barack Obama. Honk honk. Did you see that Whitmer might have a challenger this week?
No, I didn't.
The Detroit police chief looks like he's going to step up and possibly run for governor against Whitmer in the upcoming 2022 midterm. Detroit Police Chief James Craig, a Republican and veteran of police departments around the country, is preparing to challenge Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer in potentially giving the GOP a formidable candidate in one of the midterm election's highest profile gubernatorial contests. Craig has spent the recent days meeting with GOP leaders, including Ron Weiser, the chair of the Michigan Republican Party. According to a person familiar with the deliberations, anonymous sources, Craig has also spoken with Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, the chair of the Republican Governors Association, according to a second person familiar with that discussion. That is going to get spicy if that actually comes to blows.
Yeah, probably. For sure.
Especially with as much as they love that woman, for whatever reason, which I can't really...
I don't get it either.
It does look like he was in favor of the outcome of the Chauvin trial, which we'll talk a little bit about later. That was another thing that was mentioned in the Politico article. But, I mean, he's not like straight down the board where I'm just going to repeat everything that the Republican Party tells me to repeat. So it's interesting to see where this could go.
I mean, he is for now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to change, because we've seen that before. We've seen Republicans run before that don't follow the party line immediately. And somehow, for some strange reason, like 2 or 3 months into their campaign, suddenly they follow the Republican Party's platform to a T. And no one can figure out why. It's almost like they're paying them to do it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that goes on as well. So we will see what happens with there. Speaking of Republican potential governors facing off against Democrat incumbents in their various states, it is official. Gavin Newsom has a challenger. We talked a bit about this last week. Caitlyn Jenner is stepping up, and she has put up her first campaign ad, and luckily, an intrepid journalist such as myself was able to find an unlisted copy on YouTube of that campaign ad. Let's listen.
Oh no. Here we go.
Famed Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner is now entering a new race for the governor of California.
I've always been a dreamer.
California was once the envy of the world. We had what everyone else wanted. The American dream grew up here. Yet career politicians and their policies have destroyed that dream. It's been locked away, closed, shuttered, left in the dark, burned down. The government is now involved in every part of our lives. They've taken our money, our jobs, and our freedom. California needs a disruptor, a compassionate disruptor. I came here with a dream 48 years ago to be the greatest athlete in the world. Now I enter a different kind of race, arguably my most important one yet, to save California. I want to carry the torch for the parents who had to balance work and their child's education, for business owners who were forced to shut down, for pastors who were not able to be with their congregation, for the family who lost their home in a fire, for an entire generation of students who lost a year of education. This past year has redefined our career politicians as
Love the Nancy Pelosi
elitists,
right in the middle of that ad
and the
too,
people
walking
of
through without
California
hair salon.
as the warriors, the kings, and the angels. We never take kindly to glass ceilings here. Instead, we shatter them.
This one's way out there.
We're the trailblazers, the innovators, California is facing big hurdles. Now, we need leaders who are unafraid to leap to new heights.
General, he does not want to finish recommend this race. He wants the world record.
Who are unafraid to challenge and to change the status quo. I want to prove that it is absolutely possible if we only do it together. California, it's time to reopen our schools, reopen our businesses, reopen the Golden Gates. So I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, I'm running to be governor for all Californians. To reclaim our true identity, to bring back the gold to the Golden State.
What a tremendous victory.
Now is the time to achieve that summit, to be the shining city on the hill, and together we'll restore and renew the California dream.
Bruce Jenner is driving.
It's about what happens from here. It's not just about one person. It's about all of us.
Where do you want to begin?
So I was looking down because I was watching it on my phone with the sound muted and listening to it here.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if, because it's, to me, it sounded good, but I wanted to make sure that like it didn't look cringy. And I don't
Right.
think it does, honestly. Like, to me, it sounds good. Like, one of the things I like about it is that Caitlyn Jenner is not pretending that Bruce Jenner never existed.
Right.
Like, I like that.
Like Elliot Page.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know what the psychology is behind that. Like, I feel like every trans person feels differently about it depending on what their experience was. So for her, I'm glad that she can still acknowledge that Bruce Jenner is a thing and like holds world records and, you know, like that's great. For a minute, it sounded kind of libertarian, but I know better because it's Republicans. So, I mean, I don't know. I like the messaging of it. I think it's good. If she can stay that positive throughout the whole campaign, I have no problem with it. I think it sounds like a pretty solid campaign. Now, I haven't seen any of like her actual proposals, so I don't know if, you know, there's anything that's like legit about it or if it's just like all very weird, you know, things that don't make sense or things that are just going to actually grow government instead of shrinking it.
Or if it's just Kris Jenner's money-making scheme, too. That's the other side of it.
Exactly. Yeah. But I didn't see any Kris Jenner paw prints on that ad.
Right. So, and that's, you know, it's one of the things to look at, too, because, I mean, coming out of the reality TV circuit, especially with the circus that we saw coming out of DC for the last 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
that could have gone a complete...
sane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will see what happens with that. Speaking once again of governors of potential Democrat states, in a nod to statehood bid, Bowser is admitted to Democrat Governors Association.
Do what?
Muriel Bowser has been admitted to the Governors Association
Okay, but why?
because they're going to make DC a state.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was like not connecting those two names. And in my head, my ADHD brain was already like, has someone made a Mario parody of this yet? Like, have you done that? Because it's just screaming for it. Like, where are the memes with Bowser on them?
Have you ever seen, just a side note off that, the Princess Peach and Bowser election video? It was, I think it was a Dorkly video way back at the beginning of the Trump campaign.
No.
I will show that to you after the show. It is
Okay.
hilarious.
Okay. Might have to bring that back. Might have to bring back some Bowser memes. That would be hilarious.
But what do you think about Muriel Bowser being in the Governors Association?
Well, I mean, if they're going to make it a state, then okay, they got to do it, right?
Well, there's still a lot of hurdles that they have to get over to make it a state.
Right, but it would be better to do it now and and have her be prepared for what that job looks like than wait until it's done and they're all of a sudden like, here's your brand new state, and like she still hasn't gone through any like training, like isn't up to speed on anything. Like that's just a recipe for disaster. So I don't think that I think that this is the responsible thing to do if it actually goes through, is to go ahead and start her on that track now so that she is prepared.
Well, realistically, the most likely outcome of that is going to be the fact that the land's going to be ceded back to Maryland, and she's just going to
Maybe.
stay a mayor.
Maryland or Virginia or split or whatever. I don't know. But technically, DC is not supposed to have any allegiances to anything.
No, I know.
So I don't know that you could make a convincing argument that it needs to be absorbed by Maryland or Virginia.
No taxation without representation. There'd be an easy way to fix that, too. Get rid of the federal income tax.
Oh, I was going in a totally different direction. It involved DC breaking off and falling into the ocean like forever. You're like, an easy way to fix that. In my mind immediately would jump to destruction. Clearly, I'm a Gryffindor.
Disavow. Speaking of Democrat governors, we've got more of this here. Andy Cuomo says unvaccinated people could wind up killing your grandmother.
What?
Andy Cuomo says unvaccinated people could wind up killing your grandmother.
There are other things about him that hit the news today that are very concerning.
I haven't seen any of that from today, but I just thought that was interesting because he was the one, of course, the mastermind behind the put the COVID patients back in the nursing homes. Nothing bad's going to happen.
Just Google garlic. Just Google Andrew Cuomo garlic knot.
Well, I guess I'll be reading something possibly disturbing on Contemporary in the morning.
It's very disturbing.
Well, we're going to get out of the governor's race here for a second and listen to more Fox News autoplay. Remember the video I showed you a couple weeks ago, the Canadian pastor getting arrested, screaming about the Nazis in his Calvary church?
Yes.
Well, we got to throw some F's up in the chat for that guy because, as you can see up here on the screen, there's Calgary police carrying him out, and he's not even walking with them. They're carrying him. Because he got arrested over the weekend for having another church service. Good on him for at least resisting an unconstitutional law. I mean, there's not a lot they can do because they've got the billy clubs, and, well, they don't have guns in Canada, I don't think, but they've got the billy clubs, but even still. So, reading briefly from Fox News, a Canadian pastor who went viral last month for ordering out police who showed up to his church on Easter weekend was arrested Saturday for violating COVID-19 limits on gatherings set by a new court order. Pastor Artur Pawlowski, the head of Calgary's Street Church in Alberta, and his brother David Pawlowski were arrested and charged with organizing an illegal in-person gathering. Those are draconian words, the Calgary Police Service said in a statement. So, what do you think of this?
It's just disappointing.
It is. I'm glad it's happening on that side of the border, where we already knew that they weren't free. Because once it starts, and it's only a few miles away. It's going to start coming here at some point. You know it is.
I heard
It's
a
scary
really
as
good
shit.
joke. I heard a really good Canadian joke today.
Oh?
Do you want to hear it?
Is it going to get me kicked off YouTube?
No, it's very
Okay.
funny. It's
Okay.
like eye-rollingly funny. It's a dad joke.
What is it?
What do Canadians say when Americans make off-color jokes about the Queen?
I don't know.
I am not a moose.
Nice.
Where was the reaction?
That was the reaction. That was not enough for a belly laugh.
Whatever. I didn't even get an eye roll. Lame.
Speaking of things that are lame, Psaki signals that she will step down next year. This reading from The Hill. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Thursday indicated that she plans to step down next year.
Why wait?
Well, we have good
spare
questions.
us all a lot of pain now.
Well, she's got to make sure that the next person knows how to circle back properly.
See, I did the eye roll. I did it properly.
Psaki tells David Axelrod on his CNN podcast, The Axe Files, I think it's going to be time for someone else to have this job in a year from now, or about a year from now. Psaki's remarks add more specificity to the comment she made to the New York Times, a former newspaper, earlier this week, when she discussed her eventual plan to leave and give someone else a shot at the high-profile position. I think there frankly needs to be diverse faces and voices and communicators, Psaki told the Times. Women certainly, but beyond that.
Oh my God. You've got to be kidding me. I'm putting myself out of a job because I'm not enough of a minority. Woman, you are a ginger.
If for whatever reason I run for president and I actually get it, which would be a stretch beyond stretch, the press secretary spot is already promised to somebody.
Dang it, I thought you were going to tell me you're giving it to me. What job do I have?
I don't know. You will be in the administration, but the R-rated conservative, I promised him he could be the press secretary.
Wait, no. Can I repurpose the ATF?
Yes.
Okay, I like that job. I got way too excited about that.
I got more excited about the thought of the R-rated conservative being in the press room with the press people and Jim Acosta.
That would not go well. It's going to be a bloodbath. I just want to fire all of the alphabet agencies. I want to be that person.
Did you watch SNL this weekend?
No, I did not.
I've seen some of the clips.
I have
It wasn't
not.
as bad as it could have been.
Okay. I did hear about the backlash about the Elon saying that he's the first person on the spectrum to host.
Mm-hmm.
And how apparently that was super offensive to Dan Aykroyd. Like, people were very upset. And I was like, literally no one knew that Dan Aykroyd was on the spectrum. So
I didn't until today.
I didn't either. I was just like, wait, how can you be upset about something that literally is not common knowledge at all?
I don't know, but they'll find anything.
Also, the SNL cast writes the scripts. So I'm like, how did you, like, you set him up, or the person that wrote it didn't know either, and now they're just using Elon as the scapegoat.
That could be. It does look like everybody was actually a really good sport about this too. Everybody for the most part did show up to act. A.D. Bryant was the only one who didn't who sat out the episode. But everyone else was up there. They were all good sports about it, which I thought was kind of nice. The one that was really making the rounds, and actually I thought this was kind of a good one to come out with. He was talking about how he sometimes posts strange things, but that's just how his brain works. And the quote, and of course we can't play the video because NBC is watching and they will shut this stream down in a hell of a fucking hurry if I play even a second of that video. But he said, "To anyone who's been offended, I just want to say I reinvented electric cars and I'm sending people to Mars in a rocket ship. Did you really think I was going to be a chill, normal dude?" And I kind of like that. I thought that was a good one. The only big problem that really came out of him being on there, the real big problem out of it, was the fact that Doge took a dive afterwards, which made me not a happy person. Because I saw 50 cent Doge this weekend, and after buying $20 of it at 0.3 cents, I was a very happy person.
Buy the dip. Elon is always playing the long game. That's what you have to remember with him. He is not concerned with the right now or the 2 weeks from now or the 2 months from now. He's like 10 years from now. So
he is.
If you consider those comments in that context, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that is true. So we'll see what happens with that. Oh, this video. Did you see this video out of San Dimas, California this weekend?
Maybe?
The racist lady with the cop?
Oh, good Lord.
Before
Are
we
you going
watch
to
the
make me
video,
listen to it again?
yes.
Okay, fine.
Before we get into it, though, I do want to point out the fact, and this is one of the few movies I've actually seen, it wasn't lost on me the fact that this was in the same city as Bill and Ted.
Shocking that you've seen that movie. How many are we up to now? 10? Have you seen 10 movies now?
I added to my repertoire last night while I was doing the show notes.
What did you watch?
I watched the fourth Karate Kid movie, the one with Hilary Swank.
Could you at least watch a good movie?
It was on Netflix, and I didn't have to pay attention to it.
There are good movies on Netflix that are not that.
It wasn't bad. Plus, it took place in Boston, and I like Boston.
All right. So if you're going to watch a Hilary Swank movie, you need to watch the boxing movie, which I can't remember the name of for some reason, but also you need to watch Logan Lucky. Freaking amazing.
I'll look at.
Daniel Craig playing a backwoods hillbilly with an accent is chef's kiss.
Nice. All right, let's listen to what this teacher had to say, though.
You know why I'm being harassed today? Because I was going under the speed limit. I was going at 38.
Yes, you are, ma'am. Good morning.
And the speed limit is 40, and I was going 38, so why are you harassing me?
You are correct. I pulled you over
Because you're a murderer.
Because
yes, I started to record because
you can't
you're a murderer.
You can't be on your cell phone
I
while you're
wasn't
driving.
on my phone. I was recording you because you scared me.
You can't use your cell phone while you're recording.
I can record you.
May I have your driver's license?
It's at my apartment.
What's your apartment?
It's at my home. I'm just taking my son to his.
Do you have your driver's license?
I mistakenly left it at home.
Do you have a picture of your driver's license?
Yes, I do.
May I have it?
And can you call your supervisor, please?
I already did. He's on his way.
Good, because you're a murderer.
I already did. I would have too.
And so you're giving me a cell phone ticket? Is that why you're harassing me?
Not harassment.
Yeah.
I am enforcing the law.
I
ma'am.
have a right to record the police when they're harassing me.
By all means, but you can't do it while you're driving.
I wasn't texting or none of that.
Do you have that
you
picture?
Scared me and made me think you were going to murder me.
Okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Well, that's not just a feeling, you're a murderer.
Okay. Can you zoom in on that for me, dear?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'm perfectly legal, and I'm a teacher. So there.
Congratulations.
Murderer. You're a murderer.
What's your last name? I can't see that there.
Well,
If
here you
stop,
go,
Stop
murderer.
shaking. Zoom in on that for
No,
me, right?
because you're scaring me.
Oh,
You're threatening to kill me and my son. Can you give me
okay.
the
I'll tell you what, you keep smiling, you're on camera.
You're trying to threaten to kill me.
I
I'm not
didn't say that.
smiling. You're the one who's
Hold that still, I can't see that. Is this your car?
Yes, it is. You're trying to say I stole my own car because you're jealous?
Yeah,
Is that what
I don't
that's
think
about?
so. You wait for me right here, okay?
You're jealous?
Citation. All you need to do is your signature. He's only citing you for using your cell phone while you're driving. That's it.
There you go, ma'am. Sign inside the red box right there.
For him being a Mexican racist. What is that name? Gasso.
It's on the citation, ma'am.
Here you go, Mexican racist. You're always going to be a Mexican. You'll never be white. You know that, right? You'll never be white, which is what you really want to be.
There you go,
be
dear.
White.
Have a good day.
You want to be white so bad.
I take it you haven't heard that whole video yet.
No! Holy crap! She didn't. Okay. First of all, her first mistake was not saying, I don't answer questions.
Yeah, there's that.
Because someone has not watched the viral video of the Pop Brothers at Law. I don't answer questions. It's Shut the Fuck Up Friday. And that would have been the end of the video. Wow.
Couple things to note with that too, with what we're seeing from this. The big one is San Dimas does not have body cams. This was a body cam that he himself purchased to protect himself in situations like this.
Wow.
So he went out with his own money to buy a body cam, which of course gave us this incredible thing. And this woman, it does look like. I actually remember a quote from an old 2.5 Men episode when Charlie was about to get married. And he pointed out and he asked Alan, Alan, how do you sleep with the same woman every night and, not want to go out there and run a red light and then taunt the cop until he shoots you? This does kind of seem like that's what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
She was trying to get to be the next viral video, the next
You're
viral thing.
You're threatening me. Wow.
And I mean, I know that there's no love lost for you, for cops, but I mean, give this guy a medal for patience.
But there's a difference between asserting your constitutional rights and saying something very calmly and matter-of-factly, like, I don't answer questions, officer, and if they repeatedly question you, like, I don't answer questions, why am I, if you're not detaining me for anything, then am I free to go? Like, there's a difference between addressing an officer in that way and what she did, which I do not advise at all. You can totally have that narrative in your head if you want to, but I don't recommend saying it out loud.
Yeah. So, and I love the fact. What do you think? I stole my own car? Are you jealous? Jealous of what? And was it like a 10-year-old?
No, what got me at the
Mercedes?
end was you'll never be white.
I know
Who the
that was great.
fuck does that? No, she's a teacher. What? Like, wow.
And you know the worst part of this is? What do I always say? There's too many laws for victimless crimes.
Yes.
This all happened because
Yes.
there was a law.
She was holding a cell phone.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what she was doing with it. She could have been recording him. She could have been texting. She could have been using her GPS. She could have just been switching the song on her Spotify, which I do frequently while I'm driving. And Indiana has a hands-free law, so suck it. But, like, come on.
All right. Did you see that the Olympics coming up this summer, because we didn't have them last summer, is banning Black Lives Matter apparel and could punish athletes for political demonstrations?
Ooh. Well, they've already banned overseas audiences, right?
No,
These are
I
the
believe that's
same-
going to be opened back up now.
Okay. Interesting.
But it looks like the athletes are not going to be able to wear any sort of BLM apparel down on the field for any reason whatsoever. They still can wear it, but of course they also can't do like a raised fist, taking a knee, or anything else during the medal ceremonies as well. So they're cracking down on this. They don't want to see anything come flying, protests, burning, anything else like that.
On the one hand, I get it, but on the other hand, I don't like that this is a precedent that they're trying to set now of all times, because some of the most meaningful public demonstrations of, I guess, civil disobedience. I remember the black and white photo of, it's Jesse Owens, I think, with his fist raised in the air at the Olympics after winning the gold medal for track. And that was very powerful. And I'm not sure if it was it the same as I can't remember. I can't remember if it was the same Olympics as the ones where there was protests against Nazi Germany or not. It wasn't. Jesse Owens was later.
Yeah, I believe
I think
you're
it was
right.
during the 60s. But there were other protests before that too.
Well, we will see what happens with that. That's another interesting one to see off of this. Kim Gardner, the St. Louis District Attorney,
Oh, her again?
is in the midst of an ethics probe at this point.
You said probe.
I did say. It looks like this is coming back from when she was trying to investigate Governor Eric Greitens, according to records obtained by the Post-Dispatch. An ethics investigation resulted in allegations of professional misconduct against Gardner, alleging she concealed details about the Greitens investigation from her own team regarding interview notes with witnesses, failed to disclose potentially favorable evidence to Greitens' attorneys, and misrepresented the facts about the evidence to the court, defense lawyers and ethics investigators show. So, looks like she basically mishandled the investigation into the, I think it was an impeachment of Eric Greitens. It was either impeachment or a recall back then, so she mishandled that. Not to mention the fact that, there's no mention in this article at all about the fact that she used the McCloskey case in campaign advertisement material.
Right, exactly. That's the last time we talked about her.
I gotta wonder if she's on the, especially with the conversation about trying to convince Breyer to retire, if she's on the short list to be the next Supreme Court justice.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, but it also sounds like one that Queen Kamala would come up with.
Okay, but there has to be more qualified, less controversial judges that check all of VP Harris's ID poll criteria.
Well, she's a black woman. She's been an AG. It would surprise me if they did that. Not at all. So we'll see what happens with there. This whole Chinese rocket thing, I have no idea what happened with this except for the fact that they lost track of it. And Jessica Green asked what happened, why they lost track of it. And as soon as she tweeted that out, I said, I don't know anything about this Chinese rocket, but what the hell is this great big white cylinder in my garden that's got funny letters on it? But apparently, the rocket that they sent up to go to the Chinese space station, they just left it to go in eternal space debris, and it re-entered over the weekend, and some of the debris came out over the Arabian Sea. It looks like some of it was also headed for New Jersey at some point. There's been no follow-up as to whether or not they hit in New Jersey. But how do you lose track of a rocket?
You don't. I mean, okay, so this is the second time that this has happened with that same model that they have launched. There was another time that this happened where debris came raining down over, I think it was East Africa, and did cause some damage. It didn't hurt anyone, but it did cause some property damage. And I heard this morning on the radio an excerpt of an interview with someone at NASA, and they were basically like, hey, China is 0 for 2 at this point. Like, they've screwed up twice with this same model. Like, we have to question whether or not it's safe for them to operate in this way, because they are not meeting the minimum threshold of safety standards for their rockets. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to get hit with sanctions or if they're going to get like some kind of reprimand from someone. I don't know who in the world could reprimand China at this point, except for potentially Russia. But
well, my big question with that too, I mean, with the safety of this is, why would you expect safety coming out of out of China when they've got suicide nets outside their factory? They don't give a fuck about their people or their property. All they're going to do is come back out and say, okay, we throw another person at it. And there it goes. So, yeah, they're going to keep doing this here, and eventually this is going to hit somewhere it ain't supposed to hit. And then we're going to be embroiled in another world war. Which it looks like if something happens in the Middle East, that might happen anyway. So, we'll see what happens with that. All right, I've got one more here for you. And this is on a bit of a positive note for you, because for the 16th consecutive month, the FBI has recorded record background checks for first-time gun buyers and first-time gun sales as well, and new gun sales on top of it.
say that again?
For 16 months in a row, the FBI has recorded new background checks are up and new gun sales are up. Record gun sales for 16 months in a row.
Shocking. It's almost like Americans are like scared of their government or something. I don't know.
You're supposed to trust your government. You're not supposed to be scared of them.
Right? Because they're here to help.
The government here to help. That just ran a chill up my spine.
Right? That's more like a horror movie.
According to WABP out of Texas, America is locked into 16 consecutive months of record gun sales, with April gun sales hitting at least 1.8 million and FBI background checks at over 3.5 million, the Washington Examiner reported. The FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System logged more background checks in April of 2021 than in any other April on record, according to agency statistics. The FBI also said it has hit record sales every month, all the way back to December of 2019. So, good on the American people. Go buy more. You need more.
Keep buying.
Keep buying.
Buy the dip. No, there's not a dip in guns.
Yeah, there's not a dip, trust me.
There's not a dip in the cost of guns or ammo right now. But I'm still going to advise you to buy it anyway.
All right. You want to do a little bit of live chat, or do you want to check on the jobs numbers
Let's do
here?
it. Let's do it, because I think they found my joke more humorous than you did. Oh, we have lots of friends today. There are 34 people watching right now, which is down from our highest. Quest is here. Quest is like the ultimate hype man. Thank you. We love you, Quest. Ben Wild is here. Matt and Brian from Facebook are here. John Lopez is here. He says Ron Paul for president. I mean, always. I don't know if you've ever been to an event where Ron Paul is speaking, but if it's a liberty-minded crowd, he gets introduced and the entire room breaks out into chants of President Paul. So the libertarian community still loves Dr. Paul. Not Him is here. He says backups fix ransomware issues.
Yeah.
Quest says we demand green M&Ms. That is a good demand. Not Him said they normally demand Bitcoin. Ben says, I think they demand Jennifer Aniston deliver a box of jelly donuts to me. Stop it. That was sexist.
I don't think Jennifer Aniston's that
Or not
attractive. Never
sexist.
had.
That was misogynistic.
It was.
Jennifer Aniston is not your donut delivery lady, okay? Randy's here. Hi, Randy. Randy's on Twitch.
Yep.
Ben says, free the Tiger King guy. You mean Joe Exotic. Frank says, President of Nintendo of America has the last name of Bowser. Nintendo of America. Wow. Okay. Anarcho-doomerism says, I hate the right wing. Frank says the memes are out there. He's talking about my Bowser memes that I asked for, which I'm sure if you find any, just DM them to me on Facebook. You guys, I've known Frank since high school, like literally. If anyone can prove that I'm not actually a Russian bot, it's him. Quest says Ed's biceps are looking kind of swole. Lame. Not Him says we could roast marshmallows as we watch the sinking of DC. Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
Hey, now that Steven's out of there.
Right? Yeah. Frank says he's not wrong. He's just an asshole. I don't know what that was about.
Couldn't tell you.
Oh, I asked if do swamps actually burn, and Not Him said with enough petroleum. Make DC an oil slick again.
Disavow.
For legal purposes, that was a joke. Nephilium says you should not believe the garlic quote.
I saw that. Thank you, Neff.
Quest reiterates that yes, it's a joke. It's fake BBC News. I know, but it's still funny, okay? Ed says, other Ed says, unvaccinated people will kill my grandmother. Como wants to make her wear revealing sexy clothes to make things worse. We've made Ed wince. And we are about 45 minutes in. We should time on our podcast how long it takes us to make Ed wince and how long it takes Ed to make me roll my eyes. Amanda thought my Canadian joke was very funny. Thank you, Amanda. You're my favorite. Oh, Randy said Jen Psaki's going back to school for public speaking.
Good.
Quest corrected me and said, we are not a moose. Shalaga says, I used to listen to Axelrod's podcast, but it's unlistenable. I don't know what that means. Oh, Not Him says, I'm a little concerned about you being in charge of the ATF when you had that reaction. So let me clarify. The ATF taketh away, I will mandate that the ATF giveth back.
Nice.
They will turn into a distribution center of sorts.
Convenient
It'll
store.
be great. Randy says he's playing that government contract long game. He means Elon. I tend to agree. Other Ed says liberals hate Elon Musk because Elon Musk has done more for green energy in the last 10 years than they have done in the last 50. That is a good take. Frank says Elon is the living version of the meme. We're stuck here in 2020 and this guy's living in 21, whatever. Yes, also true. Oh yeah, Randy, $1 Million Baby. That's the boxing movie that Hilary Swank was in. Good movie. You should watch it. But watch Logan Lucky first. She's not in it until the end, but you'll like it anyway. Quest says liking Boston is a character flaw. Well, Ed hates Boston, so, you know.
I like the surrounding area.
I like Boston. Sorry.
I just hate driving there.
And then they were all making fun of Teacher Lady. Wes says,
never be
jealous of a
white.
10-year-old bottom of the line Mercedes.
To be fair,
And
he
I
said the
said,
same
no
thing on
one
Contemporary.
in their right mind is jealous of a Mercedes. I'm sorry. They're not even as nice as Toyota. Like you can get a nicer Toyota than you can get a Mercedes. Sorry. We're not going to be able to repeat some of that because Facebook might not like it.
Yeah, we got to watch your channel too, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Frank says, how do you lose a rocket? Motherfucker, I lose my car in the parking lot. I don't judge. I too lose my car in parking lots. China doesn't care about quality. Also true. Have you bought anything from China lately? Not him says, it's not a horror movie. It's just a repeat episode. Also very true. Quest reaffirms that my Canadian joke was hilarious. Thank you. Ron says, I hear a choo-choo train. That could mean one of many things. Please stop. Whatever
No,
that is.
there's actually a train track that runs about a mile away from here.
Okay, I thought he was making a run trains joke, and I was like, we don't do that
No.
here. So, once again, a reminder, if you like what we're doing here, leave a tip if you think we do good work. We have a Buy Me a Coffee link now. I will share it in a second on the Facebook live stream because the bot is only working on YouTube. So, just throwing that out there. And I think we're ready to jump back into the news.
All right. So, did you see the jobs report?
I did not. I heard it was bad.
So, I read the finance every morning on Contemporary. It's the first thing that I do. I come in, I peddle the Freedom Scoop wares, and then we go in, we look at the Dow, we look at the Bitcoin, we look at the gas prices in Madison, and then we read one from IBD and usually one from CNBC. But that particular morning, we read from Market Watch.
Okay.
And both Investors Business Daily and Market Watch were both glowing over the fact that we could see 800,000 to 1.3 million new jobs for April.
Okay, but are they really new? Like, are they really new?
They were both glowing that this could happen. Both articles were saying, well, at 7:30 they'll release, or 8:30 I guess because it's Eastern time, they'll release the jobs reports, and it's good. There could be 1.3 million new jobs out there. And we got 266,000.
Oof. That's a big oof.
That is, and I laughed my ass off when I heard this. So according to Axios, the U.S. adds just 266,000 jobs in April, far below expectations, like a fifth of the expectations.
Ouch.
This is a big setback for the speedy labor market recovery alongside America's great reopening, plus the fact that, and I don't know where they were even getting these kinds of numbers from. How do you be that far off?
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking here. Of course, the first thing that we did is everybody's running out to try to make to run the blame game on this to see who's at fault and who isn't. But there's so many things off of this. One of the things that I wanted to point out was, of course, the first thing is this is Trump's economy, because that's the first thing that everybody came out and said. But if this really was Trump's economy, then how do you explain the jobs reports for February and March, which were actually fairly good? I believe it was 670,000 and 710,000 respectively, if I remember correctly.
We are heading for hyperinflation, like big time.
Yeah.
We are well on that track. And I don't know that there's anything that anyone can do to stop it at this point.
That's what I'm the most afraid of right now, because
we've had too many states stay shut down for longer than they needed to. Severely impacting their economic recovery. They're not going to recover fast enough. And we've printed so much money at this point. Like, it is astronomical how much money we have printed to cover things, which it doesn't actually cover things. We're just devaluing the dollar at an alarming rate. And we're about to see a construction and housing bust, like completely. The prices that things are at right now cannot sustain.
Yeah, we'll talk about. Actually, I might move that up from where it's at now to just at the end of this here because I think that is going to play a role in this. But yeah, we just saw over this past week that they ended the eviction moratorium too, which is going to
So
put
far.
even further strain on this one.
For now,
But
I don't know that that's going to stick because that might do more damage than good.
yeah, we'll talk about that in just a sec. But I mean, looking back, I mean, you're talking about just the paper currency off of this, which is a good thing. We do need to pay attention to as well. But one of the things from reading the finance and just being in the industry as well is I'm noticing that it's not just the inflated currency; it's the inflated prices of goods because there's nobody fucking there to make them.
Mm-mm.
Ideal,
No.
ideal in heavy
Well,
truck parts.
and we've also had a little bit of a perfect storm because I have a friend who drives a specialized truck hauling glass, and there's a massive glass shortage right now. And I was like thinking in my head, like, okay, but how does that happen? And he explained it to me that it was because of the Suez Canal incident. Like they have they had such a gap in a turnaround time of glass getting where it needed to go that now we're seeing the shortage hit. So he went from working his butt off like 6 days a week to only working like 3 days a week. So he was panicked like a week ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's happening in a lot of other industries too.
But yeah, it is happening in other industries, and I can do that. I can tell you that from experience. Do you know how hard it is to get Cummins parts right now? And that is the most common on-the-road engine today. Almost every manufacturer uses some version of the ISX-15. And
Yep.
it is next to impossible to get parts for that engine.
And they're built right here in Indiana in Columbus.
That's correct. I knew that too, actually. I didn't know until you said that. It didn't dawn back on me. But yes, that is correct.
Yeah, that's like an hour and a half away from me, if that.
But it's next to impossible to get them. And the filters that are made by Cummins too, Fleet Guard, which is made by Cummins Filtration, forget it. I have so many empty shelves on that right now that it's not even funny. And there's still demand for it. People are still coming in begging, do you have this filter? Do you have this filter? No, because I can't get it from my supplier. It's been back ordered for months. Wood. Lumberyards aren't functioning.
No, and it's going to get to a point where people can't afford to buy what's in the store. So it's just going to sit there.
Unless
And
it's Ben
there's-
Shapiro, of course.
Right.
This glorious piece of poplar, gang.
That man has never held a piece of wood in his entire life. And yes, I meant that double entendre.
His wife's a doctor. She can do it for him.
Oh. Oh my God.
So, and I mean, to look at and the fact that nobody's out there, the people are going to work. We are seeing some of that here, but without the jobs to come up there where people can move back up into, where does the wage growth come from that people can go up and start to buy some of these overinflated products?
Yeah, I actually have a feeling that we're going to be forced into adopting UBI just out of necessity before too long.
That's just the destruction of the currency at that point.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't want to carry a wheelbarrow full of dollar bills to buy a loaf of bread.
How many times have I said that that's exactly what's going to happen? And that is exactly what's going to happen. And now there's this push to convert to this digital dollar. Well, what do you think is going to happen if you give the government more control over your currency?
Yeah.
You're going to go to the store and buy something, and all of a sudden your currency is going to basically be turned off to limit your buying power so that you can't, so that the government can prevent the market crashing, but also from inflating too. And that's just going to cause even more shortages and more disruption in the supply chain.
Well, one of the things that's been coming out of this discussion is the argument, and the right's bringing up the argument and saying this is definitely the cause, and the left is coming out and saying this couldn't be the cause here, of the expanded unemployment benefits, which still do continue until September. And I look at, like, around here, I don't know as many of, like, the restaurateurs locally, but I know down in Kenosha, I know a lot of them down there. In Milwaukee area, I know a lot of them down there. And even up in small town, buttfuck, middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, where I grew up, I still know a lot of the people up there. My mom works for a small bar and restaurant up there, and they can't get people in the door right now because they're making more unemployment. Hell, I've heard rumors, and I've never been able to independently confirm, that McDonald's will give you $50 just to come in and interview, even if you don't get the job.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I think there's a few things at play here, and I posted a meme early this morning that pissed a lot of people off about the fact that the government is giving you an extra $300 a week on top of regular unemployment benefits, which is essentially enough for a lot of people to pay their base, bills. And so they're not concerned about going out and getting a job, or they're deciding to stay at home, or they're deciding to go into the gig economy and, work do a little freelance and make, extra money, but then not declaring it on their unemployment form because they don't have to, like, it's easy to hide.
Yeah.
So they're
As we
sitting there
sit here on the
collecting.
gig economy.
Right. So they're sitting there collecting $400 or $500 a week because the minimum unemployment is, 115 or 210 or something like that. Then they're getting another $300 a week on top of that. So they're clearing $500 a week. And then they're just like, well, I can work under the table for a few hours a week or one day a week helping a friend or doing this or doing some freelance work or writing or, something like that. And let's say they make, another $200 a month or so.
Right.
If you have enough people in your house doing that, or maybe one person is still working full time or something like that, you've replaced your income completely. If you were making like 30 grand a year, you've basically replaced your income completely.
Yeah.
And you're working one day a week. Who would go back to working 40 hours a week on their feet in retail or restaurants if they could sit at home, work maybe one day a week, not have to pay someone to watch their kids? So they're saving money by not having to pay for childcare because they're only working one day a week. Or, I'm just throwing that out there because I know that situation has happened. There's also people who were on the cusp of retirement before the pandemic hit. And now they're like, well, I don't really want to go back to work. Like, okay, I'll just file unemployment until it runs out and then I'll retire. So they're not coming back into the job market either. So that's why there's all these places hiring right now. And the people that, would have gone back to work otherwise were maybe on that cusp, and now they're deciding not to do it.
Well,
so,
I also have to wonder with that too, if the same thing is with the dismal jobs report, if it's just some of these places, like you said, they're not looking anymore because they've given up hope that they're going to find somebody.
Yeah, maybe. Or they've discovered that they can do the same amount of work with the staff that they have, and they're just adjusting everyone that's currently working there and just being like, well, this is how it is, or maybe their business hasn't recovered the way that they thought, so they don't need to hire people back the way that they don't need a full staff anymore, especially in places where they're still operating at 50% capacity, like in dining areas and stuff like that, in retail and concert venues and stuff like you don't need all of those workers if you're not, if you have shortened hours or if you can't fill all of your tables. Like, why would you keep all of that staff? You can't afford it. So.
Well, one of the things that comes along with this too is I believe, and I did look into this after Contemporary this morning, but I do believe at this point Wisconsin still has, they've lifted the requirement, which they used to have, and they had it under the last recession, where if you're getting unemployment, you have to apply for at least 2 jobs a week. And I remember, working in it was a car X at the time, where the guys would come in, they're no way qualified to work on a car. They have no knowledge. They've never touched anything more than putting gas in their car before. But they're coming in, they're filling out the application because, it's my 2 a week. I don't care if you hire me or not. I need to do the 2 a week.
And with the number of people that are filing unemployment claims right now and have been filing them for the last year, they don't have enough auditors to go through and check those to make sure that people are actually filing. Like, you could just go on Craigslist and be like, oh, look, an office manager job for $12 an hour. Or you could literally just make it up. You could sit there and make it
Yeah.
up and put on your thing, oh, I found it on Craigslist or whatever, and file it. And there are not enough auditors to look at any of that. And they're just going to process it and put it through. So you could apply for quote unquote legit jobs that you are qualified for the first couple weeks. And then after that, you can kind of stop looking. You just make up stuff and stick it in there and then submit it.
Well,
How are they
I mean,
going to know?
Well, that's where I'm-
Who's going to audit that? Nobody. They
Where
don't
I was
have the
going with-
ability to.
Where I was going with that is the fact that I think a lot of the states have suspended that. I know Florida for sure did. They actually came out in the article that I have in the notes and said that they did suspend that. But
They suspended what? Auditing?
no, they suspended the requirement that you had to go out and look for 2 jobs a week. You had to apply for 2 jobs a week. They suspended that because the jobs weren't there at the beginning of the commie coup.
Exactly. There weren't jobs to apply for. Everything was closed.
But DeSantis has come out and said that May is going to be the last month that that's going to be a thing. So DeSantis is making the requirement back in. And I have to wonder if we're going to see some of these states come in and start to force that back in.
Yeah, and you might see the unemployment rate drop. That will be a big indicator, is if that sharply drops all of a sudden after states start saying, okay, you gotta do 2 a week or you gotta do 3 a week, and they gotta be legit. There might be some people that are like, okay, it's time to go back to work, whatever. And they go out and find a job. They walk into a place and the employers are so desperate, they're just like, you got it, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know that there were some people, and maybe disreputable business people, but they would find the people who would come in and say, okay, well, I'm filling out my application for the 2 a week, and they would come in and say, okay, well, minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. If you really need that job, come in here and sweep up behind. I'll pay you $7 an hour, $7.25 an hour, whatever the fuck it was, and you'll work 10 hours a week. Guess what happens if you turn down any job at all on unemployment?
Oh, you get kicked off unemployment, or you at least have to claim that you made X number of dollars that week, and then they dock your unemployment that much money.
Mm-hmm. But there is that. So we'll probably see some of that turning back around. But I do want to, because we've been teasing it here from the beginning, I do want to talk about what is happening with this eviction moratorium, because that, I think, is going to be changing the game as well. Because as of right now, if this does hold true, then there are a lot of people who are for. I don't think there are as many people as the statistics try to make you think there are, but I still think there are enough that it's going to be significant. There are a lot of people out there who are 14 months behind on rent right now. I think it's somewhere between. Go ahead.
It makes me wonder, and this is just because I'm like chaotic good personality. Mm-hmm. It makes me wonder if some of those people were like, hey, I'm going to be smart about this. All the money that I would have paid in rent, I'm going to keep, and I'm going to stick it in a savings account, and I am going to save for a down payment until the eviction moratorium is over. I'm going to buy a house, and I'm going to skip out on having to pay the rent. And I'm going to use the money that I otherwise would have used to pay the rent to rent a bigger place or buy a house or whatever. I have no idea if that's even possible, because I don't know if they've been reporting those non-payments to the credit bureaus or not.
I think that goes state to state. So some
right.
states,
so if they haven't been,
some no.
then that would be possible. But if they have been reporting it, then that wouldn't be possible, because you'll tank your credit score real quick not paying rent for a year.
Mm-hmm. But either way, you're contracted, and you're under contract too. So you're contracted for those 14 months of payment.
Right.
Now, the court system's going to run slow, especially with all of these hitting all at once. So
yep.
There are some people who aren't going to be held to account for this for probably a good 2 to 3 years.
Right. And at that point, if you bought property or you bought another house, you could take an equity loan to pay that off. And then you could just roll it into your mortgage. You still come out of it with a house, and you end up paying off that bad debt or whatever, the debt that's in your past. But I could see some people doing that.
I hope that I get to capitalize on that. That's all I have to say. because that's going to make some really nice. I can't think of the word for it, but the payments that the real estate agent gets. What's the word for it?
Commission.
Yeah, that's the word. I kept thinking premium. I'm like, no, it's not a premium. What the hell am I thinking?
Commission.
Commission. That's the word I was looking for.
Yep.
That's going to make some really nice commissions, especially with, I think people are going to start fleeing Minnesota too, and Illinois. I think Illinois is going to be a big one. So, hey, maybe it wouldn't be bad for you to go look into that license yourself.
People are fleeing New York and California fast as they can.
Maybe you should see what the state laws are for Indiana too, to get a license. Capitalize a little bit on that shit.
Yeah.
That's what I plan to do.
Maybe. We'll see.
Take advantage of people getting drugs. Actually, I might be doing this in 2 states too. I'll tell you a bit more about that off mic as well. But there might be a second state's license coming up in my future as well. So just because it's a place that I know people are fleeing to, so there's some stuff going on with that, and I don't know. Do you think that we could see a better jobs report coming up in May? The thing that really worried me about this one is the fact that it happened in April, when it's starting to get warm and seasonal jobs are starting.
I have friends that have landscaping companies and things like that where they cannot find help. They just can't.
And that's the thing. If this had happened in
And they're
November,
and they're willing to pay good money for hard labor, basically.
Mm-hmm. If this had happened in November, I'd be a little bit less worried about it if the jobs report looked like that. But the fact that it happened in April, when the tourism is starting, when people are getting out of school, when people want to start training for the tourism jobs, I'm a little bit worried about what this does to the economy. I really am.
I think we still see a lot of restrictions in places that have a lot of tourism, though, like California, Washington State, like Seattle, the coasts. I mean, the coasts are more blue anyway, so I feel like that's keeping people away too. I don't know. It'll just be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, we will see. You want to talk a little bit about Liz?
Not really. I could like never think or talk about her for the rest of my life and be perfectly happy.
Yeah, I could be the same thing, but I know that this is going to be what shapes the midterms and possibly could shape the Libertarian Party platform for the midterms and even what could happen in 2024 as well. So it is worth talking about.
It's not going to shape the platform. Our platform does not change until convention. Liz Cheney has absolutely no bearing on the Libertarian Party platform.
It's still going to. I think it's still going to change how we see things coming off this, because it's going to see where the Republican Party goes, especially because, you know, that whole dynamic of the neocons and neolibs being the same fucking thing. It's going to start going away. Well, that's going to stay the same, but the popularity of the neocons is waning quickly. And just this whole thing with Liz Cheney is really starting to show that. And if I could see a more populist Republican Party, I'm happy with that, because what's one of the things that we saw out of the populist movement? Let's get out of Afghanistan or die trying. Let's convince Congress to do it, and, well, Congress still doesn't want to go because they're all getting paid big fucking money to be over there, but that was one of the big party planks, and that was one of the things that, like them or not, the MAGA people, the MAGA hat people, when they got up off their knees from worshiping the golden Trump statue, said, let's get out of the Middle East. Let's get out of the Middle East.
But here's the thing, though. He had 4 years to get it done. Didn't get it done, and set the timeline for after he would potentially be out of office. If he was serious about doing it, he would have made sure it got done during his first term so that it could not be undone by his predecessor or by his successor, whether or not he got reelected.
Well, we could sit and talk about Trump forever and ever, but we got to talk about Liz here, because it does look like she is on the way out at this point. She's actually got a new challenger coming up as her successor for the third in line for the Republican Party coming up here, Elise Stefanik, out of, I believe Quest told me she's out of Staten Island, is possibly going to be the next. What is the position that Liz Cheney even holds? I know that she's the third in line, but it's Kevin McCarthy's the minority leader Steve Scalise's the whip. What is hers? What is her actual title? I don't even know. Anyway, she is in the number 3 position. It looks like Stefanik is a highly Trump-backed populist as well, which surprisingly coming out of Staten Island. I'm very surprised as a Republican coming back out of there. But she is one of the most outspoken opponents of Cheney as well. So I don't know. Do you know anything about this woman?
I don't know anything about Elise Stefanik.
Looks like she, in 2016, backed Trump as the party's presidential nominee, but worked to portray herself as an independent voice in her district. She aligned herself at the time with House Speaker Ryan, another Republican leader, who carefully tiptoed around Trump's more outlandish comments, and spoke occasionally when he believed the president crossed the line. In those early years, Stefanik largely kept out of the Trump fray, focusing instead on work on the Armed Services and Intelligence Committee. So it sounds to me, just from the CNN article that I have up here, that Stefanik is another one of those that licks her finger and puts it in the air and decides which way the political wind is going.
So Cheney is the House Republican Conference chair.
Okay.
So she's not the whip or anything like that. I confess to not knowing exactly how that power structure plays out beyond the House Majority Leader and the House Minority Leader. Mm-hmm. It does make her the third most powerful Republican in the House, as far as succession goes. But she's so unpopular. I would think that within the Republican conference they've already neutered her because they're just done.
Well, it looks like they still have to hold a vote and they have to put somebody in her place, which
Right.
is where we're looking at Elise Stefanik at this point. So
Right.
that could honestly, looking a little bit more at her from the CNN article, I kind of believe that actually might be worse. Really just kind of looking at Stefanik and the fact that she just goes whichever the way the wind blows.
Yeah, I think that's not good. So
At least for the fact that they were shitty principles, Cheney stayed on principles. The principles were, let's keep going to war in the Middle East, but she stayed on her principles. You knew where she was going to go. You knew exactly what she was going to do.
But Republicans don't like her lack of consistency because she was anti-Trump before that.
Yeah. So I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what this is going to do. I know that Kevin McCarthy got caught in a hot mic giving us his exact feelings about her. There was no video of this, but I was able to capture the audio of this, so let's have a listen to that.
I think she's got real problems. I've had it with. It's I've lost confidence. Well, someone just has to bring the motion, but I assume that would probably take place.
I think that might be the end of it.
Hmm.
Could you hear that at all? Or I know
A
I had
little
it
bit,
bumped up
yeah.
as hard as I could. But yeah, it sounds like he was in a different room and got picked up on the microphone. But, I mean, he's not being nice about it by any means. So it sounds like he's had it up to here with her.
Yeah, I think everybody in the Republican Party has. They
Well-
don't like her. And it could just be more than her stances, because I have seen politicians that have terrible stances, like their principles are just awful, but they keep them in the party because it's more than that. It's about, can they leverage things with that person? Is that person easy to work with? Personality wise, are there big personality clashes? And with Liz, I feel like there are, and that is that much more of a reason why they don't want to keep her. Not just because of her principles, but because she's freaking difficult.
Yeah. Plus, she's a Cheney. And I noticed how much
Right.
the progressives got on her side almost immediately. Democrats and progressives love her now.
Also, the Republican Party establishment does not want to give anyone else the opportunity to challenge Trump when he runs for re-election. They want it to be clear from the get-go that he's the nominee. Like, they're going to do exactly what they did last time. Like, oh, who was going to run against him? Bill Weld. That wasn't going to go anywhere. We all knew that from the beginning. And that's exactly what they're going to do, because they're going to try to set him up for failure again against whoever the Democrats run, which is going to be Harris.
Come on, man.
Because they care more about destroying him than they do about the success of the party.
They do, and that's one of the things too that I pointed out, and I've heard other people point out too, with the fact that the progressives and Democrats seem to love Cheney right now, is the fact that do you really think that the progressives and Democrats want a strong Republican Party and a strong person up at the reins, the third in command? No,
absolutely
they want to
not.
see that crash and fucking burn. That's why they're in support of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like that she causes discord.
Mm-hmm. So that's what's happening with her. Let's talk a bit about Derek Chauvin at this point, because we are going to be watching this happen all over again, it looks like. So, surfacing this week on, I believe, what the hell, where did he wind up? I've got the article archived here. Let me grab that. Give it a sec, because I had to grab it from archive. So this is actually coming from the Washington Post, of all fucking places, which to me tells me that they said, haha, we did this to you, now we're taking a victory lap. But a photo has surfaced in recent days of a juror in the murder trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin that has prompted questions over his impartiality, legal experts say, and it was this photo. Where is it? There it is. This photo right here of Brandon Mitchell in a DC bar wearing a t-shirt that says, "Get your knee off our necks, BLM." Now, this brings a lot of stuff into question at this point. This brings a lot of stuff into question off this, because one of the first things that came off this was in the jury pool. Mitchell was specifically asked if he'd been to any protests or any BLM events over the summer, because he can't be an impartial juror at this point. And I can honestly believe that he can't be impartial off of this.
I don't think he can either.
And that does raise a lot of questions as to, the impartiality of this. This is a mistrialable offense. This is definitely something where I could see a mistrial come through and a retrial come back off of this. In fact, on top of this, I would call this grounds to have this in a different district at this point.
Right, and they asked for that and were denied.
I don't think they can get denied twice after this.
I don't think they can either, honestly. Which means we're going to have to do this whole thing again.
Yeah, it does. And that's kind of...
But I don't know that in this specific case that there is anywhere in America that you could go where you could get an impartial jury.
Well, one of the things...
Where could you go?
That's interesting to see, too, because one of the things that we had to deal with in this, not only for coming out and seeing who was in the jury room, but the fact that these people weren't sequestered. So on top of the fact that they had already seen all this go completely to hell for almost a year, and they saw the backlash from the country for almost a year, they were driving through Brooklyn Park, legitimately through Brooklyn Park, and then through the George Floyd Autonomous Zone on top of it every single day to go sit in the jury pool. They couldn't sit in the jury room because, you're supposed to be staying in the courthouse while you're on jury duty. You're not supposed to be going home. That's how it goes under any other normal circumstance to avoid shit like this.
Yeah. I think if we have to do this again, 1, they're going to move districts, and 2, they're going to sequester the next jury. There's no way to not do it. And I'm actually surprised that he's the only juror they've dug anything up on.
I think he took a victory lap. I think that's the only reason they were able to dig anything up of this, because he looked back and he says, "Hey, I got the outcome that I wanted here. Look at me."
Which just speaks to how absolutely stupid he is.
Well, and I've also got, especially with the 10-hour deliberation and the outcome that they got from the 10-hour deliberation, I do have to wonder if some of this wasn't the fact that he was sitting in the courtroom and telling these people, "Hey, I know what your names are now. I know where you live. And my friends know which neighborhoods to go to."
Yeah, So Quest just asked a question. He said, is there legal recourse against a juror who lied about impartiality? What I was just looking up was if you can find a juror guilty of perjury.
Yes. He should
Because
be in cell
I
right
think
now.
that you can, but I don't know if they take the oath when they are being interviewed or after they're being interviewed and they've been chosen. I don't know when that happens. And that might make a difference.
That would be something interesting to look into. But yeah, that guy should be in a fucking cell right now. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that came up, and Styx brought this up on one of his videos as soon as this came back out and happened. He pointed out the fact that, I mean, switch the parties. And that's something I preach all the time on Contemporary. Switch the parties. If this was a black guy that was going up for second-degree murder and a couple other charges for killing a white guy, and they interview the jury and they ask all the jurors, hey, have you ever been to a MAGA rally? Because this could taint the way that you look at this here. And the guy says no. And then the photo shows up of the guy in a fucking red hat. What do you think the news media would be saying right now?
Oh, they'd be wanting to hang him. They'd be wanting to prosecute immediately.
And they'd be demanding a retrial.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't even be questioning it. They would be absolutely demanding it. So,
yep.
Yeah, we're gonna see more of that. But other news came out of this as well. It wasn't just the fact that the jury pool was tainted off of this. One of the big things to look at was we also found out that there were going to be federal charges filed against Derek Chauvin, which there have been new federal charges for civil rights, but there was a federal charge that was pending for him if he wound up becoming not guilty. There were actually federal agents waiting outside the courtroom to slap cuffs back on him for federal charges if he was found not guilty in Minneapolis. They wanted this guy to go down no matter the fuck what.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes back to the question that I always had of, is this actually going to be a trial, or is this something else at this point?
Right.
And can anybody else be tried fairly at this point? I mean, what do we see in Kenosha in a couple months? In August, when the Rittenhouse trial goes through? Which, first off, I've met the judge in that case, and he's not going to let any bullshit fly. So he's not going to have this lack of spine that the judge in Minneapolis had. I can tell you that. He's not going to have the classic Cahill lack of spine. And I bet you he's going to sequester the jury. But, I mean, even still, this whole thing just reeked of a show trial, of a kangaroo fucking court from the beginning. However, the other thing that came out of this was that, I don't know if you saw this article this past week, but there is another incident for Chauvin that's surfaced.
Again?
Well, this one was from 2017, which bothers me even more than the fact that he's had a rap sheet behind him, which we all knew that. He was a dirty-ass cop, but, you know, you charge for one incident. You don't charge for everything and try to pin it on one incident.
Mm-hmm.
I had that discussion with Hagopian on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Because he seems to think it's okay to just throw somebody in the cell because he was a dirty cop. It just doesn't matter what the hell the crime was at the time.
Well, I mean, if it fits the statute of limitations, then sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the problem here. So, reading from Newsweek, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin could face another trial for using a similar tactic that landed him in prison for the murder of George Floyd. An indictment filed in a Minnesota court on Thursday alleged that Chauvin held his knee on the neck and upper back of a black 14-year-old who was lying prone, handcuffed and unresisting during a 2017 arrest. Chauvin was recently found guilty of 3 charges that could land him in prison for decades for kneeling on Floyd's neck while he said that he couldn't breathe. The new indictment also alleges that Chauvin held the 14-year-old by the throat and struck him multiple times in the head with a flashlight. Wow. Which is all shitty, which he should sit in a fucking cell for. But the problem that I have with this is, why are we just hearing about this now?
Because Thin Blue Line.
I believe that's Blue Wall of Silence, not Thin Blue Line.
True. Okay, you're right. Yeah, that's Blue Wall of Silence right there. Has all the markers of it. Just, that's excessive force. That is unnecessary force on a 14-year-old. I can't imagine that 14-year-old's parents or another family member or he himself did not make a report for excessive force. And then they probably investigated themselves and found that they had done no wrongdoing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the fact that we're just hearing about this now too. That's what bothers me the most about this, because of the blue wall of silence. Because this guy had a problem, and it was pointed out in the chat this morning on Contemporary. Because once again, this is one of those stories that I just found out about today.
Mm-hmm. A lot of
that
people
if he had been prosecuted about this the first time, then St. George might be alive today.
Yep, it's true. That's why there needs to be more accountability. That's why qualified immunity needs to go away. That's why these internal investigations are largely bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they aren't at this point. It's the problem. The problems that I've always had, and it's never been with the police directly, because I do have problems with them, and I always said I know what the white headlights and the amber in the middle, I know what that looks like in the rearview mirror, because I've seen it numerous times off of this. But the fact of the matter is, we have too many laws, and we still have a populace that's willing to throw a blue-collar scapegoat under the bus to never have to talk about the unconstitutional laws that the politicians put up there. But there are still bad cops out there. It's not all cops are bastards, but this cop is a bastard.
Right, exactly. If this had been a different cop that had done the exact same thing to George Floyd that Derek Chauvin had done, we might have seen a different outcome. Because they would not have had that history leading up to that incident. With him, it's slightly different because he does have a pattern of behavior. Whereas if it's an honest mistake and, maybe it's a rookie or something like that indicates a whole different set of problems if it was that kind of a person that had done this. To me, him doing it, knowing that he has that kind of history, seems vindictive.
Well, one other thing that I want to touch on here before, and we got to get to Trump and Facebook here. I think that's all we're going to have time for by the end of this, but we got to get to that one here. But one last thing that I wanted to touch on here, reading briefly from The Blaze, BLM has issued a new list of demands, including a permanent Trump ban from political office and social media. Carlos Garcia reports on this, saying that, yes, they have come out with a list of demands, none of which are legal at this point. They came out and they rattled sabers about this here. And I actually grabbed the list of demands. It's that really, really long link in the show notes. The one that's like 25 fucking lines long. Because they've got all the characters off there. And actually, if you try to open it up, they'll check your browser for DDoS attacks. Like, they're really, really big on security for BLM for whatever fucking reason.
Wonder why.
But, yeah. Here are the 7 demands. Tell me which ones are constitutional and which ones are not. Number 1, convict and ban Trump from future political office.
Or what?
He's already been acquitted, too. Number 2. You call your member of Congress and demand they support conviction by dialing 202-224-3121. Number 2, expel Republican members of Congress who attempted to overturn the election and incited a white supremacist attack.
They have also all been acquitted, or their judge declined to hear charges.
Plus, throwing that white supremacist attack was probably a poison pill on demand, too. Not going to lie, because it really wasn't a white supremacist attack.
Not even
3, launch a full investigation into the ties between white supremacy and the Capitol Police, law enforcement, and the military.
I could see why you would want to do that. But 1, including the military, is overkill.
Yep.
2, that's just not even possible because that investigation would be so massive.
Yeah.
Like, how do you investigate every single department in America? You can't.
Well, they want you to try. Number 4, permanently ban Trump from all digital media platforms.
Okay.
Which is going to be really hard because he owns one now. We'll talk about that in just a second. 5, defund the police.
Okay, we've been hearing that for a while.
I don't think these people know what defund the police means either, by the way.
I don't think they do either.
I think they believe that if you defund the police, there just won't be police.
But the thing is that a lot of them acknowledge that that is not a good idea.
Yeah.
They're like,
yeah,
oh,
that's
well,
true too.
We'll move to a new model of policing. Okay, well, if you're calling it a new model of policing, guess what it still is? Policing. So if you're not reforming the penal code, what good does it do you?
And plus, we'll still have the USPS investigator service.
Right? How many departments of the government have their own police service or have their own police force? Way too many.
Number 6, and this is my favorite one because they're so concerned about what happened on January 6th. Don't let the coup be used as an excuse to crack down on our movement.
Huh? Has it been?
In response to the coup, politicians have already introduced the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2021. We've seen this playbook before. These laws are used to target black and brown communities for heightened surveillance. Republicans are already busy trying to create an equivalence between the mob on January 6th and our Freedom Summer.
Oh, we're calling it a Freedom Summer now.
It's right in the text. I mean, I can share my screen. I've got that scene built into OBS. It's right there.
A Freedom Summer.
Yes.
All right. And yet the only members of Congress that actually introduced serious legislation to reform policing, no-knock raids, the Breonna Taylor Act, like all of those things were white.
And Tim Scott.
Plus Tim Scott. We like him. He's okay.
Yeah.
But like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
We don't need new domestic terror laws, facial recognition, or any other new police power for the state. Our government should protect righteous protest and stay focused on the real issue, rooting out white supremacy.
Okay, I was with them up until that very end.
Yeah, that's usually
I was all for it. I was all for it until that last phrase. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying that it's not as... Oh, man, I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say it's not as big of an issue as they're making it out to be, because in some places that is people's lived experience. I don't want to diminish that. I feel like it's on a spectrum. Not every place is like that.
Well, no, and I mean, to listen to these people, you think that white supremacy is just there's a Klan around every single corner instead of 7 cousin fuckers in Alabama that I've already kicked out of my Discord server.
I was not there that day.
No, you weren't there yet by that point. That was like a year before you came onto the channel.
Wow. Yeah,
Number 7.
I was all for it until that last phrase.
And number 7, pass the Breathe Act. The police were born out of slave patrols. We cannot reform an institution built upon white supremacy. We need a new, radical approach to public safety and community investment.
We need a new approach. Okay, so where's the solution? Like, what are they proposing here?
President Biden has already drawn on the Breathe Act in his executive action, calling for racial equity screens in federal programs, investing in environmental justice at historic levels, and engaging with system-impacted communities. The Breathe Act paints a vision of the world where Black Lives Matter through investments in housing, education, and health, and environmental justice.
Environmental justice? What does that even mean? Justice for the trees? Like what? I don't understand.
No, it's because the ghetto is usually built around very, very poor environmental conditions like a factory or something.
Or something. Okay.
Well, sometimes it's a nuclear waste plant too.
Yikes.
So that's what they see for that.
So very little of that, if any of it, is actually constitutional. Some of it I do agree with without the language about we should instead focus on white supremacy. Like, focusing on how do you focus on battling white supremacy?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
It's an ideology. You can't just outlaw an ideology. You might hate that ideology. You might not agree with any of it. I mean, there are ideologies out there that I don't like and don't agree with. I have never once advocated for them to be outlawed completely. That is thought police. We don't do that here. It is America.
Well, they want to do that, and well, they'll burn down your city if they don't get their way. It's like the biggest temper tantrum in the world. So, do you remember on Thursday morning when all of MAGA Twitter thought that Trump was about to be put back onto Facebook?
No.
For like an hour? You probably weren't up that early yet.
No.
For like an hour, all of MAGA Twitter thought that Trump was about to be put back onto Facebook, and they were all rejoicing. And all of left-wing Twitter was basically calling Facebook the Daily Stormer. You know what that is, right?
No.
The Daily Stormer is a white supremacist publication.
Oof. Ouch.
Because they were about to put him back on.
The right doesn't do themselves any favor by acting like that.
Yeah. Well, the decision came down, and Facebook kicked the decision over to their oversight board, which is made up of several multinational people who decide whether or not Facebook's rules should be applied. The board came back and said that Facebook was to uphold the decision. They were supposed to keep Donald Trump off of Facebook and Instagram, but they can't do it indefinite. They either need to make it permanent or they need to let him back on. So basically, they thumbed their nose back at Zuckerberg and kicked the decision back to him, and he's got 6 months to decide.
6 months? That's pretty generous.
Yeah.
I was thinking like 30 days.
Yeah, that would be a good one too. But yeah, they've got 6 months. Zuckerberg's got 6 months to decide whether or not they're going to put Trump back on Facebook or not. Which, really, honestly, I don't care whether he's on there or not. It does suck to the fact that they're going to. I mean, they're going to use the same kind of ideals just to, throw a 3-year-old meme off a Facebook fan page.
Yeah.
For no fucking reason.
6-year-old meme.
It blows to that extent, but really, honestly, there's other stuff out there. If he wanted to get his message out there, there's Parler, there's Gab, there's Minds. I'm on all 3 of those.
He has his own personal newsletter service.
No, it's social media, don't you know?
It is now.
That was the other thing that came up out of this, and I was actually telling you about this a little bit off mic, but, well, first I'm going to put the original one back up there first, but this is the new From the Desk of Donald J. Trump. He's got $1.5 billion in assets and still got a transparent background. I mean, you're watching the stream on your phone. Look down. You tell me what you see, what you could see off. Well, actually, I Snapchatted it to you. You know what's out there.
It looks awful. You can't read anything.
Well, it's partially because we have a black background off of this.
But still.
I did save the old background from the old show just so we can actually go and actually have a decent look at this. So let me switch that scene up. Come on, turn on. So now we can at least somewhat see it. But I've got the website up here so we can look at this. And it does, I mean, it's exactly what you would think it is. It's a way for him to go out and blast it out to other people. And you can see on the right-hand side of all the posts, all the tweets that he's putting out. And he is putting out tweet-length statements on this thing. I kind of scrolled through this. I have not seen a single one that's... Okay, the second one is, I think, a little bit over 280 characters, but it looks like, for the most part, he's sticking through the 280 character line. It looks like some of the first ones he had a few more, but, I mean, he's keeping them short. He's keeping them easily digestible. And on the side, prominently, there are buttons on everything where you can share it to Facebook and Twitter instantly. Plus, you can give it a like.
Of course you can.
Is
it getting a lot of engagement?
It doesn't look like he's got the like numbers on this, which is surprising because for a guy like Trump, I'm sure that he wants to see, okay, this one got hit the like button so many times. Look at how amazing this website is. Okay.
I have not missed that impression at all.
Some of the
Not even a little bit.
Some of the insightful tweets have come out, including some of the stuff that we've talked about here. The most recent one said, after being loudly booed at the Utah Republican Party convention, Utah's Weber County censured Rhino Mitt Romney in the strongest of terms. Washington County Republicans also censured Romney in April. He is bad news, in all caps, for our country.
Oh my God. No, I do not miss that impression at all. And you used to have to do it like every week.
Yes, I did.
I had enjoyed my break, okay? It was a vacation.
Yesterday, I can't say he tweeted out, even though it really kind of is a tweet at this point. He says, Happy Mother's Day to all. It will come back bigger, in caps, and better and stronger, all three of the adverbs in caps, than ever before. Do not worry.
No Happy Mother's Day for Ivanka?
Not that I see.
Or Melania? Or any of the
Not that I
other
see.
women in his life that are moms? Like,
Not that I see.
jeez. He is so self-absorbed.
Well, that was kind of baked into the cake when he first came down the escalator. We all knew that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the new website. That's the new Trump social media. You can't interact with it. You can't do anything with it, but it's there. So he can come back out and blast out whatever it is that he wants to blast out, I guess. What do you think about this? Other than the Trump impression.
I mean, he's totally entitled to have his own website. I just don't think that it's going to catch on.
The instant share feature was a nice touch. I will give him that.
Of course he wants people to instant share because he wants to antagonize Facebook and Twitter. What I want to know is if they will automatically ban links from that.
I don't know if they will yet. I think they eventually will at some point because they will ban out links. I mean, it's a vertical monopoly. They'll ban out links to everything. I tried to share a Styx Hexenhammer video in a comment, but with him, because he does so much on alt tech, I always try to support his BitChute account rather than his YouTube account.
Mm-hmm.
Now, luckily, the video that I was trying to share was one of them that he put on all platforms, that he put it on YouTube too. So I did wind up getting to share it, but I tried to share it in a comment with Britt, and it never posted. And I tried to show it in a group chat that I'm in with Britt as well. And I got the big red message that said, this looks like spam and we can't post this in your group chat. So I got a feeling that this is going to come soon to this new social media platform.
Interesting.
And then we're going to get one of the tweets on the social media platform that says, Twitter is totally rigged and they're blocking my great links. Okay, I have the greatest links and I'm going to continue to put them out there. Put them out there wherever you can. Okay, for me, your favorite president. All right, so that's what's happening in Trump land. He's not on Facebook, but he's got his own shit.
Whatever.
What else?
He's an
do I
angry
got?
little man.
He is, very much so. All right, we've only got time for one more. Do you want to do Bill and Melinda, or do you want to do what's happening on the other side of the world?
Bill and Melinda.
Okay. Let me get a couple of things launched up here, so I've got some stuff to read from.
I'll do a quick live chat check-in.
All right.
Since we've been going for a little bit without having checked in. Where did we stop? Where? Okay. Ron said before the last stimulus check that was given out, there was already 4 times more money in circulation than there was in the year 2000. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Quest says, imagine what's going to happen when all the supports, moratoriums, and etc. are completely out of the way. It will be a raging disaster, dumpster fire. Keith says there are shortages in electronics right now, too. Yes, I think there are shortages in pretty much everything, or there will be soon. Nephilium said, I heard a quarter of all dollars that have ever been printed were printed the last couple of years. Yes.
I think it's 20% as in the last year.
Yeah, I think so too. Keith says, I agree on UBI. He meant with me. I think we're getting closer and closer to socialism, and maybe that's part of quote unquote their plan.
If you want to get down to where Linda Cloud popped in, I think that'll be a good one. And then we'll grab the rest of it at the end.
Okay. Where was that?
Oh, it's going to be a ways down. So if you want to just catch up to that. She's at the 1842 mark. So to give you an idea how far down you got to go.
I already passed it then.
Or you're at 1942 because you're an hour later than me, remember?
Oh, yeah. You got to convert these things for me.
You're a ginger. You're not blonde.
True. But I have ADHD. Quest wanted to know if the jobs number was seasonally adjusted. Linda said hi. Travis
well, then
said,
we're already there.
Yeah, Travis said even before recent events, New York, California fleeing has changed state representations by census numbers. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, we will catch up the rest at the end. Let's talk about Bill and Melinda Gates.
So this week, Bill and Melinda Gates, almost inexplicably, out of nowhere, came out with a tweet and said that they are splitting up after 27 years from CNBC. Bill Gates, co-founder and former CEO of Microsoft, and his wife Melinda French Gates said on Twitter on Monday they will split up after 27 years. The two will keep working together on philanthropic efforts which have addressed education, gender equality, and healthcare. After a great deal of thought and a lot of work in our relationship, we have made the decision to end our marriage, Bill and Melinda Gates wrote in a statement that Bill Gates tweeted out. Over the last 27 years, we have raised 3 incredible children and built a foundation that works all over the world to enable all people to lead healthy, productive lives. We continue to share a belief that mission and will continue our work together at the foundation, but we will no longer believe we can grow together as a couple in this next phase of our lives. We ask for space and privacy for our family as we begin to navigate this new life.
And then guess what happened?
Well, first off, I'm reeling over the fact that Bill Gates asked for privacy.
Well, the mainstream media gave them exactly 0 privacy, shockingly enough.
Yeah, that's been actually one of the biggest stories out of last week. And really, honestly, it should be a private matter. As much as Bill Gates spied on all our computers for all those fucking years, this should be a private matter.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't stop the world from speculating.
No, it hasn't. And also, today, there were some news stories that came out saying that Melinda started kind of prepping for divorce in 2019.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got that one up here too. Which adds a whole degree of things too, because apparently Melinda Gates tapped the divorce lawyers in 2019 after the Epstein links to her husband. This is according to The Hill.
She knows something. She knows something that she doesn't want to get out and does not want to be associated with. And that risk is big enough, she feels the need to walk away from her marriage. Granted, there's no prenup, so she's going to make out like a bandit.
Mm-hmm. Well,
just like Mackenzie Bezos did.
It does look like there's already an agreement in place for who's going to take what. And the oddest thing about this for me is the fact that they're going to continue working together on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
So she just doesn't want to be contractually tied to him at this point, but she still wants to work with him.
I don't know. I can't hazard a guess to the psychology behind that.
Neither can I. It's odd to see. And I mean, there's been all kinds of speculation. It looks like Bill was still spending vacations with the girl he dated before Melinda.
Mm-hmm. Every year.
Some of that.
Every year they went to some little beach house in North or South Carolina, one of the two. Mm-hmm. What are you doing, Ed?
It sounded like somebody knocked on my door for a second. But I don't see a shadow out there. I don't hear anybody back there, so...
Come back with a warrant.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, with that, it's... I mean, I don't know. I really don't.
I don't either.
What do you think?
Like
Being
I said,
the resident female onto this.
I feel like she felt she needed to leave. She felt she needed to plan it meticulously, which, granted, when you have as much money as they have in the foundation and all these other things that they have going on, all the things that they do put their money into, it's not going to take 6 months to divorce. I mean, or even 3 months to divorce. It's a process because a judge has to go through everything. So if you don't have anything mapped out ahead of time, it's going to take that much longer. So she felt the need to plan this and be meticulous about it. And Bill was aware, obviously, because it sounds like they've already agreed on who's taking what or who's doing what with what thing. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of property that they have. He just bought all that land in Arkansas or wherever it was.
He's buying land all over the country.
Exactly. So who knows what all that is for? So I don't know. Like I said, it kind of feels like there's something about him personally that she doesn't want to be associated with anymore, but it's not serious enough that she needs to cut off her ties with the foundation. Or it is, and she's just waiting for it to break and then force him out of the foundation and take it over for herself.
That's an interesting way to think of that. I didn't think about her taking over on this.
If it breaks that something between Gates and Epstein was a thing, like how involved he was or not. I mean, keep in mind they still have Ghislaine Maxwell locked up. Who knows what secrets that woman has in her head?
Oh, I can't wait to even hear what she's got to say. And I know that she had the black eye. They've been keeping her in solitary.
Right. So I feel like if something was that serious that it was gonna be a breaking news story, it was gonna be a big deal, and Bill Gates was gonna kind of be run out on a rail. Given the amount of money that they have put into the foundation, Melinda wouldn't just walk away from it.
Right.
So she might be keeping hold of the foundation because of the investment that they have made over the years into it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. I have got one more thing for you.
Surprise stupidity?
Yeah, and this was a good one.
Is it really stupid?
It's not as bad as the San Dimas one. If that one hadn't been so widely publicized, that would have been surprise stupidity. But that one got so widely publicized, I knew you had seen at least part of the video. I didn't realize you hadn't seen the whole video yet.
I hadn't seen the whole video. I had seen the news story about it, but not the whole video.
But let's talk about COVID relief funds and how they get used. So, I'm reading from the New York Post, and I'm going to turn over and get the image up for this because, of course, I got the picture for this. This one. Flip the scene over for that one here. Reading from the New York Post. This town used its $228,000 in COVID relief funds on a giant squid statue.
Tokyo.
Money well spent. A coastal town. It wasn't Tokyo, but it was in Japan. A coastal town in Japan has dropped a reported 25 million yen, about $228,000, on a massive statue of a pink squid, using the money designated for coronavirus pandemic relief.
I had seen this news story already.
That's lame. It's still stupid.
Is it Cthulhu or Cthulhu?
It might be. That was one of the things that came through the live chat on Contemporary in the morning. Officials in Noto claimed that their investment on the behemoth cephalopod, which measures 42 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 13 feet high, Kotaku reported on Monday, will help drum up tourism in the cash-strapped fishing town, which is located in the Ishikawa prefecture on Japan's central western coast.
They think a giant squid statue is going to be a tourist attraction?
Apparently. I mean, there's the pink elephant in Dane.
There's pink elephants. There's a pink elephant in the town where I went to high school.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was unique to... Does it have glasses, too?
Yes. And it's holding a martini in its trunk.
Oh, the one in Dane isn't. It's just a concrete pink elephant that's probably about 8 feet tall.
Also, there's a concrete pink dinosaur on the street on downtown Albuquerque.
There's another one just outside of Las Vegas.
Okay, so there's an epidemic of pink animals.
Oh, the dinosaur isn't pink. It's just regular green. They actually featured
Hmm.
a similar one in Fallout New Vegas, and they built a town around it too.
Actually, the pink dinosaur in Albuquerque, I will have to find the photo of it, but there is a sign next to it that basically says, "Please do not molest me."
Well, of course we need something like that. Why wouldn't we? But yeah, that's what they tried to do. They tried to use it for drumming up tourism. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I know that every basic girl I've ever met in my life has taken a picture by the pink elephant in Dane. I've seen most of those pictures.
Because you're a weird stalker.
No,
That did not sound good the way the way that you said it.
Okay.
I hope you realize that.
Well, I will have to address that somewhere on the later date, but that's all that I have. So if you want to lead these guys out in live chat, if you guys over in DLive, I will give you about a minute, and then I will hit the DLive chest. So if you're on a different platform, if you want to get over to DLive and grab those lemons, they're about 159.6 in the chest.
Ooh, that's a lot of lemons. Okay, we were talking about shortages. We got down to almost 20. We were talking about unemployment. And someone made a prediction. What prediction was that? Oh, Chilaga says prediction. The loans will go to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, probably. Quest wanted to know, won't that still be owed and counted against your ability to get financing? That was my question, was whether or not they've been reporting these late payments to the credit bureaus or not. If they haven't been because of the moratorium, then it wouldn't affect your ability to get financing because it wouldn't reflect in your credit report. Now, after the moratorium expires, I would imagine they would report the whole thing. So there's a very small window of time where you could get a credit report run, have a good score, and then it would tank afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Not him said that is most definitely a chaotic neutral thought. Sorry, I like the chaos. Nephilium says, I think I'm going to buy in Montana. Let me know if you want that commission.
I don't know if I'll have the license in Montana. I might too, because that's another one people are running to, but...
Mm-hmm. Ron says, Liz has to go. She's a warmonger. Absolutely. Brian Lamar, you're my new favorite now too. He said I'm the best. Quest says he'll probably vote for Eric Adams. I'm going to have to talk to you separately because I want to know why you're not voting for Stacey Pressman, who is also running for New York City mayor. McConnell says, show me proof of elbow. I don't understand what that means, but okay, whatever.
At least it's not beat this time.
Yeah,
He's
we're not
that
doing
kind of
that.
guy.
We don't do that here. Not him says she'll get twice as many votes as Biden did. Oh, I think he means Harris. Ben says, I bet Liz Cheney kicks puppies. Eric from Facebook says, my factory lost an entire airplane wing for a week. It happens. I think he's talking about the rocket.
That could be.
Ron says, changing the trial venue will not help unless it's a place full of bootlickers. The case made international news. Probably right. Ben says, get some Creole folks who barely speak English and eat mud bugs. Look, don't be hating on my Cajun friends. That's not fair. Quest said, Rittenhouse is clear self-defense. Ben says they won't charge him because then they'd have to vacate the verdict. I think he's talking about the juror himself. Frank wants to know if anyone watches The Watchmen.
I've seen the movie.
I've
never seen the TV series.
I haven't seen the TV series either.
That was probably that movie held me as hard as Cobra Kai did. I could, usually if I watch a movie, if I do manage to watch a movie, I'm checking my social media, doing some sort of work in the background or whatnot. I watched The Watchmen and I could not take my eyes away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty enthralling for me too. Quest agrees. Too many laws. Ron says, just doing my job. Quest says, screw BLM's demands. They didn't Don't they know once the election was decided, the DNC doesn't care what they have to say? That is totally true. Ben says, I demand that our national anthem be changed to Highway to Hell. I actually like that idea. And free Britney Spears. I also like that idea too. Ben also says extra bacon standard on all cheese. You know, like bacon's great. Ben's list of demands sounds amazing so far. Oh, ban Nickelback? Sure, I'm down. Canada can keep them. I am not amused. Not him says very European of them to want to outlaw speech. Definitely. And then Quest decided to do a tower. Thank you, Quest. McConnell spelled farts. I don't know what that means. Ben says, no, the solution is to end all climate change. Ben wants to know if we can fund synchronized swimming as an Olympic sport. I thought it already was.
I don't know.
Not
he wants to defund it. He wants to get rid of it.
Oh, defund. Oh, okay. I thought he was saying fund it. Never mind. Not him says he loves the Trump impression.
The best Trump impression. Okay, the greatest.
Ben says, how do we ban Cory Booker? Mostly because he's annoying. Let me translate that into Spanish. No. Ben says, Trump is really good at parkour and free running. What? Oh, he says, let that visual stew with you. No, thank you. Oh, Quest said the knock at your door was the feds.
It might be.
Ben says
I'm broadcasting stuff against them, so.
Ben says PragerU is the best news source. Boo.
No.
No, we do not stand PragerU here. Ben says, does her name bring anything to the brand? I know you're talking about Melinda Gates. I don't know, but that's my best guess. Frank says it looks like calamari. Quest also called Japan. Ben wants to know who gets the Instant Pot. I'm guessing Melinda is the smoothie drinking mama. Frank says he would visit the squid. Ben says it's only a matter of time until it breaks that Bill Gates is actually a reptile. Ron wants the lemons. Frank says we have mortgage questions. Oh, good Lord. Quest, I can't even read that out loud.
Wait, I gotta find it because now I want to know.
They're just making jokes about Bill Gates.
I did see that one.
Quest says we do have ranked choice voting in New York City. I could vote for more than one mayor. Yes, you'd have to rank them though. Oh, Ed, there's apparently a third Ed. His last name is very telling. He says, don't mess with us Cajuns. Yes, your last name is very telling. I knew you were a Cajun.
And we did get a super chat over on the the D-Live side, which
Yay,
you can't see, but I can. Ron
How
Helton.
many lemons does that mean we have?
He threw us a diamond, which is 100 lemons, and said, keep on sparkling.
Wow. So now we have almost 300 lemons.
No, because we didn't get all those back. The chest is separate from my account. I'll explain to you how all that works.
I do
It's
not
really,
know
really
how this
weird.
works. Okay.
What? Is that it?
I do not.
That's everything.
That's it. We're at the end, and I think you should give the people what they want. Give them their lemons.
I distributed the lemons already.
Oh, well, okay,
I popped the chest already. Our big winners were Spartan and Ron Helton.
Nice.
All right. You know that sound.
I do.
All right. Well, I do want to thank everybody who came by and chatted with us, kept us honest in the chat, came and hung out with us as well. It was a great show. We had a lot of stuff to get to, and we didn't get to quite all of it, but, that seems to happen when the news media wants to jam everything they can in so you don't pay attention to what they don't want you to pay attention to. But if you want to come back and hang out with us and discuss any more, there are links to the Gilded and the Discord both in the chat, so you can come and hang out with us on either. We are trying to push people towards the Gilded, but I know not everybody has that yet. So Check it out if you'd like it. Tell your friends about it and come and hang out with us over there as well. Otherwise, you can find me over on Twitter. That is at EdsBlog Twitter with a 1 in place of the I. You can find my wonderful co-hostess over on Twitter at LibertarianRed1. Go and check us both out over there. I did see a couple of new people followed me from this program, so thank you guys. Otherwise, you can come back and check out my friends, The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The R-Rated Conservative, who will be back tonight after his hiatus at a brand new time, 10 p.m. Eastern. Go and hang out with him over there. Warning, the language is not for the kids, so make sure the kids are in bed by the time you get over there, but go and check him out over there. You can also check out The Breakdown with Breckenhoff and the Freckles and Bridge Show as well. And you're just catching us now, you want to catch it back up with us, you can go catch us on demand on YouTube and over on BitChute.com as soon as everything processes, over in the audio platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. So go and hang out with all of us over there. And lastly, as I always say, well, no, not as I always say just yet. You can come back and hang out with me tomorrow morning, bright and early, for Contemporary. That is at 7 a.m. Central Time. You can catch my co-host. When's the next time you're going to be doing Rogue History?
Tentatively next week.
All right, go check out Rogue History over on the Facebook channel as well. Go and hang out with both of us as well. All of that is linked in the description, so you can come and hang out with us. And lastly, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Lead them out with some last words.
I will see you tentatively next week for Rogue History on Thursday night. That is on my page on Facebook at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I hope you all have a great week and don't do anything I wouldn't do twice.
Take care, everyone.